I pray you receive the man who wants to love you, not just use you. I want you to experience the man that you can have an amazing, healthy relationship with. And I know many of you desire that. At least at some point you have. Some of you may have reached a point where you're feeling a little discouraged about it. And I want you to know, do not stay discouraged. Have hope, have faith. It can all work out. But we have to be mindful of how we proceed in the process of preparing to receive what is for you, okay? Or even positioning yourself to receive what is for you. And what I can tell you is I've seen a lot of people, a lot of women, but people in general, will go to God and ask God, bring me a partner. God, help me find that person, all these things. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, again, I think most people at some point in their life has probably done it at least once. But then they meet someone and they don't verify if that's who God sent. Like, they don't verify, wait a minute, am I supposed to be with this individual? It's almost like they want God to provide the person, but they don't ask God to essentially confirm the person, okay? And that's not to make anyone feel bad about overlooking that step, because again, that's also something that's happened to a lot of people. But I think it's important that we highlight why we should not overlook that step, why it's so important for you to ask God if that man is for you, all right? Because I've seen a lot. I'll say this. There's a lot of people who have been married who have gotten divorced. And I'll ask them, did you ask God if you should marry this person? And 90% of them will say, I never asked. The other 10% asked, God told them no, and they married the person anyway. And so to me, I've used that story so many times, and it highlights how much overlooking that one step can be so detrimental to the end results of our relationships, okay? But again, I think one of the reasons why people overlook that step is because they don't understand on a deeper level why that step is so important. Like, I think on the surface, we will say, yeah, I get why that's important, but they don't really understand. So I want to break that all down, all right? So one of the big reasons why you need to always ask God if that's the man for you is because a good man doesn't mean he's the right man for you. So another thing I say a lot, or I've said in previous interviews, is that one of the worst positions for a woman to be in is to be with a good man she is not really in love with, okay? And I want to start here because I don't think people understand, one, how common this is, all right? Because I think people are just so quick to just think, oh, there's not that many good men to begin with, so how many women are really ending up with this good man, but she's just not in love? She'd just be happy to be with this man. Not necessarily true. There's a lot of women who, they met that guy, he seemed great, it made a lot of sense on the surface, right? And even though she knew she may not have been truly into him, maybe even fully attracted to him, it was like, how can I pass up such a good guy? Or even feeling like, other people telling her he's such an amazing man, or feeling like, okay, I've been praying and asking God for a man, he's this great guy, this must be it, okay? But then find herself in this relationship where she's not really feeling him like that. And now walking away is so difficult because it's really easy or it's easier to justify letting go of a man who's acting a fool, who's doing all kinds of nonsense, who's mistreating you or whatever the case may be. And even in those situations, there are tons of women who struggle to walk away. But it may be easier, it's easier to make your case to walk away in that sense. However, if he's a good guy and he's done nothing wrong, but you're not into him like that, you don't really feel him like that, now it's hard to justify to yourself, you may feel like that, why you should leave anyway. It's hard to explain to friends and family why you're not feeling this. And then what happens is these women end up marrying these men in a lot of situations, still never truly being into him. But you can only hide and run from that for so long for the majority of people. There may be some rare exceptions of women who are able to just suck it up and deal with that for the rest of their life. I'm not saying that was a good thing. I'm just saying it's happened. But the majority, at some point, that reality is going to show itself and be the demise of the relationship, or the foundational demise of the relationship. And so now you'll have these situations, for example, where people will say, oh, this woman just woke up out of nowhere and now she wants to divorce her husband. And it's like, she didn't wake up out of nowhere. She's been thinking about this for a long time. This disconnect has existed for a long time. She probably was prepared to walk away years ago, but she just wasn't willing to pull the trigger. And now she's reached a point where she just can't take it anymore. And so I had to use that because it's so often where people, again, who are just hoping for God to provide them with this partner, get caught up in the good rather than what's right for them, rather than what's actually fits them, what actually is an alignment with them. And believe it or not, a lot of times, I was going to say sometimes, but a lot of times, the resume of the person that you're fully in alignment with may not, and when I say resume, that's on the surface. You can just write it down. They got this, and this. It may not look as good as this other person who seems so awesome on the surface. But beneath that, it feels good. It feels right. There's a connection there. There's more there. But it's not just what you feel. It's not just what's on the resume. It's, again, asking God, because you don't know for sure. And it's so easy as a human being to get caught up with what we see on the surface and not tap into the spiritual of understanding what's really going on here. And so some women have gotten with that good guy because he seems so good, seemed like this dream man, and he ended up being a nightmare, right? And in fairness, sometimes that was him, as in he was being deceptive from day one. And sometimes that nightmare came about because she wasn't honest with herself about the fact that she was never motivated to pour into this man the way that he would need. So that disconnect that exists, anytime either partner is not truly prepared to pour into their partner the way that they're going to need in that relationship, that disconnect has the potential to turn into something much, much worse. And in most cases, it does. All right? So it's important that we just don't take the good and we understand, yes, sometimes we have to walk away from a good person. Not just a good person. Using me for an example, I remember, I don't want to say what the show was, but many years ago, I got offered to be on this big show. And when I found out, I was like, oh my God, this is an amazing opportunity. I was still kind of earlier in my career. And everyone around me was like, man, you need to do this, like automatic. Again, everything seemed great. I pray about everything. I just don't jump and make decisions. I have to pray about it. When I prayed, God was like, nope, don't do it. Do not do it. It's not for you. And so it was tough, but I had to, no matter what anyone else thought, no matter how good it looked, I could not sleep at night if I would have ignored flat out God telling me, no, don't do this. So I didn't do it. And looking back now, thank God. Man, now I can see clearly oh, okay, I get it. I understand why I was not supposed to do that thing. And it was a blessing that I was obedient in that moment. So it's hard to decipher that at that time. It's hard to always know if this good person in front of you is going to turn into something messy later. And that's why, rather than leaning on our own understanding, this is one of those reasons why we have to ask God about them. All right, so another reason why you need to ask God about any man that you date is because lust can sometimes feel like love. Now, I know some of you are like, no, not for me. I know the difference. All right, and you may. But what I'm really trying to convey here is it's not really just about lust. A lot of other feelings can trick us into thinking this is love, okay? So whether it be lust, whether it be infatuation, whether it be the fantasy we've created in our own head of what we believe this can be, rather than the reality of what it is, hell, even the fear of us, whether it be being alone or missing out, because we think, again, even going back to the whole he's a good man, the fear of, oh my gosh, I might pass up on a good man, and now that manifests into you feeling like, okay, maybe you do have love for him because you don't want to lose him. And it's like, no, it's not love, it's fear. It's not love, it's lust. It's not love, it's infatuation. It's not love, it's an unhealthy attachment of some form that's causing you to get caught up. And because attachments can create an environment where we become so consumed in our mind by this individual, that alone can have us thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I'm in love. Like, perfect example is, you'll have people who may have been in a very unhealthy relationship, very toxic relationship. Then they break up. And while they're broken up, you miss this person. You're struggling with the breakup. But what you don't realize is, and before I say what you don't realize, because you're struggling, because you keep thinking about them and you're consumed by this, it can trick someone into thinking, I'm in love with them and that's why I'm going through this. When no, it's not that you're in love with them, it's that you're experiencing withdrawal from the attachment you had in this situation. You are experiencing the disappointment of having to walk away from what you hoped it could become. You're missing the feeling, not the person. You're missing the fantasy, not the person. But in that moment, it's easy to confuse those things. So all these different emotions and thoughts and whatever can really play tricks on our mind. And this is why, again, it's so important for people to talk to God, for you as a woman to ask God about any man you date. Now, I'm going to throw another one that creates attachments that can trick people sometimes. It was hitting my spirit, so I have to say it. Sex. I always say sex has contributed to a lot of people holding on to someone that should have been gone a long time ago. All right. Now, I know that's not everybody's experience. I know there's a lot of people who may claim the intimacy is why they're still there, but they're just scapegoating that. It's not actually what the reason is. There's a deeper, unhealthy attachment, and they're just using that as the excuse. But it does create attachments that then cause people to struggle to let go. All right. And sometimes for a woman, it's not even that the sex was good. It could just be because you gave your body to this man and now you don't want to feel like you didn't get nothing out of this. Especially if the sex ain't great for you, you're like, okay, I'm not getting the enjoyment here. So I need a different kind of payoff, which is I need this relationship. I need to be able to say I have this man. And if you know, to have to walk away with what you feel is nothing hurts too much. So it's like, no, I'm gonna wait till I can get something out of this. All right. It could just be feeling like I don't want to feel like I made the mistake of letting him experience me in that way. So to justify this, I have to make this work. Right. Again, is that everyone's story? No, but it happens to a lot of people. And so whatever it is, you have to be always willing to take a step back. I'm gonna be saying it throughout the whole video and talk to God. And I'll say this, sometimes some of you feel like, well, if I'm out here having sex, how am I going to go to God and talk to him about this, right? Because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing anyway in that regard. I understand that, but this is kind of where come as you are comes into place. There's a better quote. You don't get good to go to God. You go to God and he'll make you good. So don't let whether it be the shame, the disappointment, the conviction of I'm not living the way God wants me to live right now anyway, so I can't. Don't let that stop you from going to God. He knows we all fall short. He gets it. If you don't allow yourself to go to him, you're only going to make matters worse. So better for you to still get in his presence, get the guidance, so that you can be strengthened in doing whatever it is you need to be doing in that moment and with that situation. All right, so here's another reason why you have to ask God about any man you date, is because that man may not be who he seems to be. So I was mainly focusing earlier on him being a good man, like him actually being a good man, but not letting that be the deciding factor because you got to go deeper. In this instance, I'm speaking more to the man who is flat out deceiving you. And let me say in advance, this is not shade to these types of people because I'm not saying this happens with all of them, but I've had tons of stories of women clients who've come to me who they were dating a pastor. Okay? And again, I want to repeat, this does not mean all pastors fall into this category. There are plenty of genuine ones, things of that nature. But there are also men who are masquerading as such, who use that title, that uniform, as a way to get women, right? Or take advantage of people in general. And so there's been so many who, when they met this guy, you know, he's quoting scripture, he's doing all these things, he's presenting himself in this way, and of course, he's a pastor, so to her, he's got to be good, right? Or if this man says to me, God is telling me you're my wife, he must not be lying, right? Like, that gives them, in that woman's eyes, this higher level of credibility, which it shouldn't. Simply because no label, no title on this earth should override you believing this person, or should cause you to believe this person more, or feel like you don't need to have to confirm with God about this individual. Anyone can say they're whatever, all right? They can say they're literally sent from God. That doesn't mean that. Doesn't matter how genuine they seem in that moment, how convincing they seem. You still have to do your own due diligence. But you have these men, whether it be pastors, whether it be other types of men, other fields in life, who present this character to you. And again, it's that falling into the trap of believing the resume, all right? And let's be real. A lot of women at times fall for it and believe it because they want it to be true. You're hoping for it to be true. So I hate using this example, but I have to. Like, there's a lot of scamming going on online where you have these scammers impersonating celebrities. They've impersonated me. I remember seeing one time where, I don't know if you're familiar with the artist Omarion, but somebody impersonated him, and this girl was on, I forgot what show, Dr. Phil, somebody, and she really believed Omarion was trying to marry her. It's like, I don't know the whole breakdown of the story, but I'm pretty sure she never spoke to him face to face. She never FaceTimed with this man because it wasn't him, right? So she must have just been communicating over the phone. But the reality is, chances are, because she wanted so badly to believe it was true, she became more vulnerable to falling into the trap and being scammed, all right? So a lot of men who are impersonating good men, impersonating a true pastor, impersonating someone that you would actually want to be with, they're able to get past your defenses because you're holding on more to what you want to believe it is rather than accepting what it actually is. And this, again, is why prayer and talking to God is so important, because it helps us, again, it helps us take a step back in those moments that we may be getting caught up in the moment, all right? Prayer is kind of a way to bring yourself back to reality, so to speak. It's a way to center your mind, you could say. And it will help you see things more clearly, as well as whatever emotions in the moment is getting the best of you. By going into prayer, you get to quiet those things. You get to now be in that place where you're tapping into the Spirit, and that is going to enable you to have a greater chance of seeing it for what it is and doing what you need to do. Because let's face it, as I said earlier, some people will go into prayer, literally hear the answer from God, and still do the opposite. It happens, all right? But it at least increases the chances of you listening and doing what needs to be done. So yes, I understand. And this is another one that kind of just hit me that I have to mention, because sometimes people are falling for the trap, because not only is it they're presenting this wonderful man that you want to believe, You got even family and friends vouching for this scammer, this fool got you thinking that it's legit. And come to find out, the family's just as unhealthy and toxic as he is, right? They're all in on the scam sometimes. Or they don't know themselves. Like, not every family who co-signed on their no good son, right, was trying to maliciously see you get hurt. Some of them themselves were being tricked by their son and did not know this is how he really gets down. Okay? And that's why you can't let that be what gives you the assurance and the confirmation. It's cool if it's there. Take it, you can take some account of it, but it still goes back to talking to God. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So here's the deal. I genuinely believe there is a great man that you can experience a great, amazing relationship with, okay? And I genuinely believe